Maya had always loved living by the lake. She had moved to the small lakeside community 5 years ago, drawn by the peaceful surroundings, the sound of water lapping against the shore, and the fresh air that seemed to fill every corner of her home. Her little house was modest but charming. It had a small garden in the front with bright flowers and a back porch that faced the lake. Every morning, Maya would step onto that porch, take a deep breath, and watch the sun rise over the water. The reflections of early light on the lake made her feel calm and happy. Fishing had been Maya's favorite hobby since she was a child. She had spent countless summers on her grandfather's small boat, learning how to cast a line and wait patiently for a bite. It was not just about catching fish. It was about being close to nature, enjoying the quiet, and having time to think. Now, living by the lake, she could continue the hobby she loved. Each evening, she would carry her little boat down to the water, pack her fishing gear carefully, and row to her favorite spot. Sometimes she would catch a fish, sometimes not, but that did not matter. The peace she felt while floating on the water was worth everything. One sunny afternoon, after a morning spent cleaning and watering her flowers, Maya returned from a short walk to find a thick envelope sitting on her porch. She picked it up curiously. It was from the Homeowners Association, or HOA, the organization responsible for managing the community. Maya had received letters from them before, usually about small things like lawn care or parking rules. She did not expect anything serious. As she opened the envelope, her heart started to beat faster. Inside was a letter that stated she owed $3,200 for violating the HOA's rules. Her eyes widened. The fine was for fishing on the lake, something she had done peacefully for years. Maya felt a wave of disbelief and frustration. She had lived in the community for 5 years, had always followed the rules as she understood them, and had never caused any trouble. How could a hobby she had done responsibly suddenly result in such a huge fine? Maya sat on the porch, trying to calm herself. She reread the letter carefully. According to the HOA, recent changes in the community, regulations had restricted fishing for residents who had not paid a special lake use fee. The letter claimed that she had ignored the rules and was now responsible for the fine. Maya knew that she had never received any notice about this new fee. There had been no emails, no letters, no signs posted anywhere. It felt unfair, and she felt a strong sense of injustice. Determined to understand the situation, Maya decided to visit the HOA office the next day. She wanted to speak directly with someone who could explain why she was being fined. When she arrived, the office was quiet, and a friendly receptionist directed her to Mr. Wallace, the HOA manager. He was a middle-aged man with glasses and a serious expression. Maya explained her situation calmly and showed him the letter she had received. Mr. Wallace adjusted his glasses and began to explain the new regulations. He said that the HOA had introduced a lake access policy that required residents to pay a fee to fish or use the lake facilities. According to him, anyone who did not pay the fee and was caught fishing could be fined. Maya listened carefully. She interrupted politely to mention that she had never received any notice about the new rules. Mr. Wallace sighed and said that the letters had been sent out, but he admitted he could not provide proof that she had received them. Maya felt a mixture of relief and frustration. Relief because she had a valid point, but frustration because she was being asked to pay a large sum of money for something she had no knowledge of. She left the office with the envelope in her hand, her mind swirling with thoughts. How could she resolve this issue? Paying $3,200 was impossible for her. Ignoring the fine might result in legal trouble or additional fees. She needed a solution that was smart, fair, and within the law. That evening, Maya sat by the lake, her feet dangling into the cool water. She watched a family of ducks glide smoothly across the surface and listened to the gentle rustling of trees in the wind. The peaceful surroundings contrasted sharply with the stress she felt about the fine. Maya knew that acting impulsively could make the situation worse. She needed to think carefully and plan her next steps. Over the next few days, Maya researched the HOA rules and local property laws. She discovered that while the HOA could manage community spaces, they could not restrict access to the parts of the lake that were considered private or part of her property. This discovery gave her hope. She realized that she had more control over the situation than she initially thought. Maya started making notes, listing her rights and options. She also began observing the lake more closely, noting the paths people used to access it and the areas that were clearly part of her property. While she was thinking about the problem, Maya also reflected on her life in the community. She enjoyed living there, but the HOA's heavy-handed approach to rules had always bothered her. She liked the idea of rules, but she believed they should be reasonable and communicated clearly. Now, with this fine, she felt that her patience and understanding had been tested. Maya knew that she needed to stand up for herself, but she also wanted to do it in a way that would not create unnecessary conflict. One afternoon, while sitting on the porch with a cup of tea, Maya's neighbor Daniel stopped by. Daniel was a kind man in his late 40s who had lived in the community for many years. He noticed the envelope on the porch and asked about it. Maya explained the situation, and Daniel listened carefully. He nodded thoughtfully and said, "It seems like they are overstepping a little. You should be careful, but you also need to know your rights." His words gave Maya confidence. She realized that she was not alone and that seeking advice from others could help her find a fair solution. After a few more days of thinking and planning, Maya decided she would not pay the fine blindly. She would first make sure the HOA understood that she knew her rights. But she also wanted a way to protect her property and her peaceful enjoyment of the lake. The idea was still forming in her mind, but she knew she needed a strategy that was clever, legal, and effective. Maya spent hours sketching ideas, measuring her property boundaries, and considering different solutions. She wanted something that would clearly mark her property, protect her lake access, and also send a message that she would not be bullied by unfair fines. The problem was challenging, but Maya enjoyed challenges. She liked thinking strategically, planning carefully, and finding solutions that were fair and creative. By the end of the week, Maya had a clearer plan. She would research local contractors, discuss her property rights, and consider building something that would protect her lake access. At the same time, she would communicate with the HOA, making it clear that she was aware of the rules but would not be forced into paying an unfair fine. Maya felt a renewed sense of control and confidence. She knew the path ahead would require patience, careful planning, and courage. But she was ready. As the sun set over the lake, casting golden reflections on the water, Maya smiled. She picked up her fishing rod and walked to the dock, feeling the cool breeze on her face. Fishing had always been her way to find peace and clarity, and today it reminded her that even when faced with challenges, she could remain calm, think clearly, and act wisely. The fight with the HOA had only just begun, but Maya felt ready to take the next steps. She knew that with careful planning and persistence, she could protect her rights and continue to enjoy the life she loved by the lake. After the shock of receiving the $3,200 fine, Maya spent several days thinking carefully about her next steps. She had always been a calm person, preferring to analyze a problem before acting. Now, faced with what seemed like an unfair demand from the HOA, she knew that careful planning was essential. Paying the fine was not an option. Ignoring it could make the situation worse. Maya realized she needed a solution that was legal, strategic, and effective. she began by studying the boundaries of her property. She walked slowly along the edge of her backyard, taking notes and measuring distances. Maya noticed how residents of the HOA community often used a small, worn path to access the lake. That path was close to her property line, and she realized that while the HOA managed certain community areas, the land behind her house clearly belonged to her. For the first time since receiving the fine, she felt a spark of hope. If she could clearly define her property and protect her lake access, she might find a way to resolve the situation on her terms. Maya decided to consult with a local contractor, someone she could trust to offer practical advice. She contacted Mr. Bennett, a friendly and experienced builder in the area. When she explained the situation, Mr. Bennett listened carefully. "You want to protect your property and lake access," he said. "There are ways to do that legally, but it must be done carefully to avoid conflict or legal trouble." Maya nodded. "I don't want to create problems. I just want to make sure my rights are respected." She described her idea of building a fence along her property line. It would clearly mark her land, protect her lake access, and prevent people from walking through her yard without permission. She also wanted to maintain her own access to the lake, so a small gate would be included. Mr. Bennett smiled. "I think we can do that. We can design something attractive and strong. It will make the property line clear and still look natural." Over the next few days, Maya and Mr. Bennett worked together to plan the fence. They measured every section carefully, considering the best materials and design. Maya wanted the fence to be made of wood, with tall panels to provide privacy. She also chose a gate with a simple lock so she could enter and exit freely. Maya thought about the appearance as well. She did not want the fence to look harsh or unfriendly. She wanted it to blend with the natural beauty of the lake and her backyard. While planning the fence, Maya also thought about how the HOA might react. She realized that sending a clear message without confrontation was the key. The fence had to protect her property legally and demonstrate that she was aware of her rights. At the same time, it had to be respectful and professional. Maya believed that people would respect her decision if she acted calmly and responsibly. During this period, Maya also sought advice from her neighbors. Daniel, her friendly neighbor who had lived in the community for many years, visited her one afternoon. "You have every right to protect your property," he said after listening to her plan. "Make sure everything is within the law and you won't have any problems." Sometimes, people respect calm confidence more than confrontation. Encouraged by Daniel's words, Maya felt more confident. She realized that the situation was not just about the fine. It was also an opportunity to assert her independence and protect her space. Maya spent hours each day walking around her property, making detailed notes about where the fence should go, how it would affect access, and how it would look from different angles. She sketched diagrams, considering every possibility. One morning, she decided to visit the local zoning office to make sure her plan complied with regulations. The officer at the counter was helpful and explained that as long as the fence stayed within her property line, did not block public access, and met height restrictions, she was free to build it. Maya felt a surge of relief. All her careful measurements and research had paid off. She could move forward confidently, knowing that her plan was legally sound. Once she confirmed the legal requirements, Maya returned home and prepared for construction. She made a list of all the materials she would need: wooden panels, posts, screws, paint, and the lockable gate. She wanted everything to be high quality so that the fence would last many years. Maya also considered the visual design. She chose a soft brown color that would blend with the trees and earth, giving the fence a natural appearance. She did not want it to look aggressive or threatening. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as the first materials arrived. Watching the wooden panels stacked in her backyard made the plan feel real. For the first time since receiving the fine, she felt a sense of empowerment. This was her way to respond to the situation calmly, legally, and cleverly. She could protect her rights and her enjoyment of the lake without escalating conflict. Construction began slowly. Mr. Bennett and his small team worked carefully, following Maya's detailed plan. Every post was measured and leveled. Every panel was aligned to create a smooth, professional appearance. Maya supervised each step, offering suggestions and checking that the work matched her vision. She wanted the fence to be strong, attractive, and clearly mark the boundary of her property. Neighbors noticed the activity, and some stopped to watch. A few waved and asked what was happening. Maya explained politely that she was building a fence to mark her property line and protect her lake access. Most neighbors nodded and smiled. Some even expressed admiration for her thoughtful planning and attention to detail. Meanwhile, the HOA sent another letter expressing concern over unauthorized construction. Maya responded calmly, attaching a copy of her property survey and zoning approval. She explained that she had the right to build on her property within legal limits. The HOA seemed surprised by her careful documentation, but Maya remained polite and firm. She was determined not to argue unnecessarily, but to assert her rights clearly and professionally. As the fence slowly took shape, Maya felt a growing sense of satisfaction. Each panel represented more than just wood and nails. It was a symbol of her independence, her careful thinking, and her determination to stand up for herself in a respectful way. The process required patience, attention, and perseverance, but Maya enjoyed the challenge. She found satisfaction in planning, supervising, and making sure every detail was perfect. During this time, Maya also reflected on her personal growth. She realized that the experience was teaching her valuable lessons about patience, strategic thinking, and calm problem-solving. She had faced a stressful situation with clarity and intelligence, rather than anger or fear. Each step in planning the fence reinforced her confidence and sense of self. Finally, after days of careful preparation and supervision, the construction of the fence was almost complete. Maya could imagine how it would look from the street, from her backyard, and from the lake. She knew that the design was beautiful, functional, and legally sound. It marked her property clearly, protected her lake access, and sent a calm but clear message to the HOA. Maya knew her rights and would act responsibly to protect them. By the end of the week, Maya could see the fence taking full shape. The panels were smooth and neatly aligned. The gate was installed securely, and the paint gave the wood a natural, welcoming appearance. The fence looked professional, like it had been part of the property for years. Maya felt proud. This was not just a fence. It was a demonstration of her intelligence, planning, and courage. As she stood by the partially completed fence that evening, watching the sun set over the lake, Maya felt a deep sense of calm. The fine had initially caused fear and frustration, but it had led her to think carefully, plan strategically, and take controlled action. She realized that she had turned a stressful situation into an opportunity to assert her independence, protect her property, and grow as a person. Maya smiled as she imagined the future. With the fence completed, she would enjoy her lake access peacefully, continue her fishing hobby, and know that she had handled the situation with intelligence, patience, and respect. The process had been challenging, but it had also been empowering. She felt ready to face whatever the HOA might do next, confident in her preparation and the strength of her plan. The morning sun spilled golden light across Maya's backyard as she stepped outside to check on the progress of her fence. Over the past few days, the construction had begun in earnest. Mr. Bennett and his small team had arrived early, carrying wooden panels, posts, and tools. The sound of hammers and saws filled the air, a rhythmic reminder that her plan was moving closer to reality. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Watching her vision come to life was thrilling. But she also understood that the fence was more than wood and nails. It represented her rights, her independence, and her response to the unfair fine from the HOA. She walked along the line where the fence would stand, checking the measurements she had carefully marked weeks earlier. Each post had to be perfectly aligned, straight, and firmly set in the ground. Maya observed as Mr. Bennett and his team dug holes, measuring the depth carefully. She could see the concentration on their faces and appreciated the skill involved. Precision is everything, Mr. Bennett explained. A fence might seem simple, but if it's not done correctly, it can cause problems later. Maya nodded. She understood that attention to detail now would save headaches later as the first panels were raised and secured. Maya felt a wave of satisfaction. The fence already looked sturdy and professional. She had chosen a warm brown color that blended naturally with the trees and soil. Even at this early stage, it was clear that the fence would look attractive and respectful, while clearly marking the property line. Maya had insisted on a gate for herself, so she could still access the lake freely. The gate had been installed early in the project, with a simple lock that she could operate easily. Neighbors began to notice the activity. Some walked past, curious about the construction. Maya greeted them politely, explaining that she was building a fence to mark her property line and protect her lake access. Most nodded in understanding. A few smiled and complimented the quality of the work. "It looks beautiful," one neighbor said. "You've thought this through carefully." Maya appreciated the support, but she remained focused on the work at hand. She wanted to make sure every detail was perfect. Meanwhile, Maya knew that the HOA would not remain silent for long. She had already received one letter expressing concern about unauthorized construction. She anticipated that there would be more. To prepare, Maya made sure that she had all the necessary documents ready. She kept copies of her property survey, zoning approvals, and correspondence with the HOA. She also began writing down a timeline of events, detailing when she had received the fine, visited the office, and started construction. Maya understood that being organized and informed would give her strength if the HOA tried to escalate the situation. Each day, as the construction progressed, Maya supervised closely. She watched as each panel was raised, checked the alignment, and made small adjustments to ensure the fence looked perfect. She also walked along the lakeside of her property to see how the fence would appear from the water. The panels were tall enough to mark the boundary clearly, but they did not block her view or the natural beauty of the area. Maya wanted the fence to be functional, legal, and visually pleasing. One afternoon, as the team worked on the far end of the fence, a representative from the HOA came by. It was Ms. Collins, a woman in her 40s with a serious expression. She walked up to the partially constructed fence and looked it over carefully. Maya greeted her calmly. "Hello, Miss Collins. I wanted to let you know that everything we are doing is within my property line and fully approved by the local zoning office." Maya explained doubtness. Collins frowned slightly but nodded. "I see," she said. "We just want to make sure there are no violations. The HOA is concerned about maintaining community access." Maya replied politely, "I understand. I am not blocking public access. This fence only marks my property and ensures my lake access remains protected. I have all the approvals required by law." Ms. Collins looked around and appeared to evaluate the fence. After a few minutes, she left without further comment. Maya exhaled slowly. The encounter had been tense, but she had handled it calmly. She felt proud that she had maintained composure and reinforced her rights without confrontation. Over the next week, the fence slowly took shape. Maya became more involved in small details, such as choosing the exact placement of panels and ensuring the gate was perfectly level. She also supervised the painting process. The warm brown color was applied evenly, highlighting the natural texture of the wood. Maya wanted the fence to feel like part of the landscape, not an eyesore. She spent hours making minor adjustments, checking the alignment of each panel and post. The process was meticulous, but Maya enjoyed it. She found satisfaction in careful planning, attention to detail, and seeing her vision come to life. While construction continued, Maya also observed how the HOA members reacted. Some residents seemed curious, others indifferent, and a few expressed mild concern. Maya stayed polite and professional in all interactions. She knew that remaining calm and composed was her strongest advantage. She did not want to escalate tensions unnecessarily, but she also wanted to ensure that her rights were clearly understood and respected at times. Maya reflected on how the situation had started. Receiving the $3,200 fine had been shocking, even upsetting. However, it had also prompted her to take control of her property in a thoughtful and strategic way. She realized that challenges often brought opportunities. By carefully planning and executing the fence construction, she was not only protecting her lake access, but also learning valuable lessons about patience, preparation, and assertiveness. As the fence neared completion, Maya began to feel a growing sense of empowerment. Each panel represented her independence and determination. The partially constructed fence already made it clear where her property began and ended. Maya could imagine how it would look when finished: strong, attractive, and legal. She also felt confident that she had acted responsibly, balancing her need to protect her rights with respect for her neighbors and the community. One afternoon, Maya took a break and walked along the lake. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and the gentle breeze carried the smell of fresh grass and trees. She felt a deep sense of calm. Fishing had always been her favorite way to relax and think clearly. Now, as she prepared for the next phase of the HOA conflict, she appreciated the clarity that peaceful reflection brought. The lake had always been a place of comfort for her, and she was determined to protect that connection. During the week, Maya also spoke with Mr. Bennett about finishing touches. They discussed reinforcing the fence posts, ensuring the gate operated smoothly, and checking for potential weak points. Maya wanted everything to be perfect. She knew that a well-constructed fence would not only protect her property, but also demonstrate her careful planning and responsibility. Mr. Bennett reassured her that the construction was going smoothly and that the fence would be strong and long-lasting. Finally, the last panels were installed and the fence was complete. Maya stepped back and admired the result. The warm brown panels lined her property perfectly. The gate was functional and secure, and the entire structure blended naturally with the surroundings. From the street, it looked professional and elegant. From the lake, it marked the property line clearly without obstructing the view or natural beauty. Maya felt proud and satisfied as she stood there, watching the sunlight glint off the newly completed fence. Maya realized how far she had come. The $3,200 fine had initially seemed like an overwhelming problem, but careful thinking, research, and strategic action had turned the situation into an opportunity. Maya had protected her property, asserted her rights, and maintained her calm composure. She had acted legally, responsibly, and effectively. That evening, Maya placed her fishing gear by the gate and stepped onto the dock. The lake was calm, reflecting the golden hues of the sunset. She inhaled deeply, feeling a sense of peace she had not felt since the fine had arrived. The fence was more than just a physical barrier. It was a symbol of her intelligence, patience, and determination. Maya knew that the HOA would have to recognize her rights and that she had handled the situation with dignity and respect. Maya smiled as she cast her fishing line into the water. The gentle pull of the line reminded her of simpler joys and the rewards of patience. She had faced a challenge, planned carefully, and executed her plan with care. The fence was complete, her lake access protected, and her confidence strengthened. Maya realized that the journey had taught her valuable lessons about persistence, thoughtful action, and the importance of standing up for oneself in a calm and legal way. By the time the last panel of the fence was installed, Maya felt a mixture of relief, pride, and anticipation. The construction had taken several weeks, but every moment had been worth it. Her backyard now featured a strong, warm brown fence that clearly marked her property line. The gate allowed her access to the lake whenever she wanted, while keeping others from crossing into her land. From the street, the fence looked professional and elegant, and from the lake, it blended naturally with the surroundings. Maya could hardly believe how different her backyard felt. Standing back and admiring her work, Maya realized that the fence represented more than just wood and nails. It was a symbol of her careful planning, her determination, and her ability to stand up for herself calmly and legally. She thought about the $3,200 fine from the HOA and how overwhelming it had seemed at first. That fine had caused stress, frustration, and even anger. But it had also pushed her to take action, research her rights, and develop a clever solution. The next morning, Maya decided to walk around the fence with fresh eyes. She examined every panel, every post, and every nail. The craftsmanship was impressive, and she felt proud of the attention to detail she and Mr. Bennett had invested. She tested the gate, making sure it opened smoothly and locked securely. Satisfied, she stood on the dock, looking at the lake. The water shimmered in the early morning light, and the air was cool and crisp. She could already imagine herself fishing peacefully without any interference. Maya knew that the HOA would not ignore the fence. She expected a response, and she wanted to be prepared. That afternoon, she received a call from the HOA office. Mr. Wallace, the HOA manager, asked to meet with her to discuss the new construction. Maya agreed to meet him at the community center. She knew that staying calm, organized, and professional would be key to handling the situation effectively. At the meeting, Mr. Wallace and two board members, Ms. Collins and Mr. Harris, were waiting. They looked serious, but Maya remained composed. She explained politely that the fence had been built entirely within her property boundaries, in compliance with local zoning laws. She showed copies of her property survey, the permits, and the construction plan. She emphasized that the gate ensured her access to the lake while marking her property line clearly. Mr. Wallace cleared his throat. Maya, the board is concerned about community access to the lake. Some residents have used the path near your property for years. Your fence blocks that route. Maya responded confidently. I understand the concern, but that path crosses my private property. I am happy to maintain access for myself and ensure my property is respected. I have acted fully within the law and have not blocked the public parts of the lake that are outside my property. Ms. Collins looked at Maya carefully. We were not expecting such a thorough approach. Most people would react emotionally, but you have clearly researched and planned carefully. The board will need to review this information. Maya nodded politely. I want to resolve this calmly and legally. I am willing to discuss solutions that respect both the community rules and my property rights. The board took notes and thanked her for the information. While the meeting was polite, Maya could sense that the HOA was surprised by her careful preparation. They had expected resistance or confrontation, but Maya had handled the situation with calm confidence. She left the meeting feeling satisfied. She knew she had asserted her rights effectively without creating unnecessary conflict. Over the next few days, Maya observed the reactions of her neighbors. Some were curious about the fence, while others seemed to accept it quietly. A few residents stopped by to compliment her on the construction and the way the fence blended naturally with the landscape. One neighbor, a woman named Laura, said, "You've done a great job, Maya. The fence looks beautiful and professional. You handled everything so calmly." Maya smiled and thanked her. Positive feedback reinforced her confidence and validated the careful planning she had invested. Despite the compliments, Maya remained aware that some residents were likely discussing the fence privately. She did not let this distract her. Instead, she focused on enjoying her backyard and lake access. She spent her mornings fishing, rowing her small boat across the calm waters, and appreciating the peace she had fought to protect. The fence allowed her to do this without worry, giving her a sense of freedom and control she had not felt since receiving the fine dot as the days passed. Maya realized that the fence had changed the community dynamic subtly. People now respected the boundaries, and there was less casual trespassing near her property. The HOA, after reviewing her documents, decided not to pursue further action regarding the fine. They recognized that Maya had acted legally and professionally. In a quiet sense of triumph, Maya felt relief and satisfaction. The $3,200 fine was no longer hanging over her, and she had found a way to protect her rights effectively. The fence also brought a sense of security. Maya felt that her property and personal space were respected, which allowed her to enjoy her time at the lake without distraction. She noticed that she was more relaxed in the mornings, more focused in her daily tasks, and more confident in interacting with neighbors. And the HOA, the process of building the fence, had strengthened her problem-solving skills and her ability to act decisively in challenging situations. One sunny afternoon, Maya invited Daniel, her longtime neighbor, to fish with her. They sat on the dock, casting lines into the sparkling water, and talked quietly about the events of the past weeks. Daniel smiled and said, "You handled that situation perfectly, Maya. Calm, clever, and prepared. Most people would have panicked or reacted angrily. You turned a problem into an opportunity." Maya laughed softly, feeling proud. The fence had done more than protect her property. It had also demonstrated her intelligence and composure. The HOA eventually sent a formal letter acknowledging that Maya's fence complied with all local regulations and did not infringe upon public access. The $3,200 fine was quietly dropped. Maya read the letter carefully, feeling a sense of closure. She had faced an unfair challenge, responded thoughtfully, and achieved a fair outcome. It was a lesson in patience, strategy, and calm determination that Maya continued to enjoy the lake. She spent evenings rowing her boat, watching the sun dip below the horizon, and listening to the gentle lapping of water against the shore. The fence had created a space where she could feel secure and unbothered, a place where she could enjoy the natural beauty she had loved for years. She realized that taking careful, thoughtful action often led to better outcomes than reacting impulsively or with anger. The community also began to adjust. Neighbors respected the fence and its purpose. Even some HOA members seemed to develop a quiet respect for Maya's ability to solve a problem with intelligence and composure. The situation had the unexpected effect of fostering a new sense of order and clarity regarding property boundaries, benefiting both Maya and her neighbors. As the days turned into weeks, Maya reflected on the journey. Receiving the fine had been a shock, but it had prompted her to act decisively and thoughtfully. She had researched, planned, and executed a solution that was legal, functional, and aesthetically pleasing. The process had strengthened her confidence and reinforced her ability to handle challenges effectively. The fence was complete, the fine resolved, and Maya's lake access secure. She knew that challenges would come and go in life, but the way she had handled this situation would remain a valuable lesson. Patience, preparation, and calm intelligence had won the day. Maya smiled as she looked out over the water, knowing that her peaceful mornings and fishing trips were now fully protected in the end. The fence had become more than a physical structure. It was a symbol of careful thought, responsibility, and the courage to stand up for oneself in a respectful and legal way. Maya felt proud not only of the fence, but also of the way she had handled the challenge. She knew that she had set an example for herself and for the community about how fairness and perseverance could lead to positive outcomes. Maya picked up her fishing rod, cast her line into the shimmering water, and breathed deeply. The calm lake reflected the golden light of the afternoon sun, and she felt a profound sense of peace. The challenge with the HOA had tested her patience and determination, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. The fence had done its job, and Maya could finally enjoy the life she loved, knowing that her rights, her property, and her peace of mind were fully protected. With the fence completed and the fine resolved, Maya finally felt a sense of peace she had not experienced in weeks. Every morning, she woke up with excitement rather than worry. The sunlight streamed through her bedroom window, reflecting off the calm surface of the lake. She could step onto her porch, take a deep breath of fresh air, and enjoy the view without any concern about conflict with the HOA. The fence had become a symbol of her careful planning, determination, and respect for both the law and her neighbors. Maya spent her mornings fishing. She would take her small boat to her favorite spot near the middle of the lake, where the water was calm and the fish plentiful. Fishing had always been more than a hobby for her. It was a way to think clearly and relax. Now, she could enjoy it freely, knowing that her rights were fully protected. Each cast of her line reminded her of the careful steps she had taken and the patience she had practiced. The process had strengthened her confidence and allowed her to enjoy the simple pleasures of life fully. Neighbors began to notice the change as well. The community had initially been uncertain about the fence, but most residents now accepted it. Some even expressed admiration for Maya's careful planning and calm approach. A few came by to ask questions about how she had managed the situation with the HOA. Maya answered politely, sharing only general advice about knowing your property rights, staying calm, and handling challenges responsibly. People appreciated her wisdom and composure, and a quiet respect grew in the community. One afternoon, Daniel, her longtime neighbor and friend, joined her on the dock. They sat side by side, lines in the water, enjoying the gentle sway of the boat. Daniel looked around and smiled. "You've handled everything perfectly, Maya. The fence is beautiful. Your lake access is protected, and the HOA seems to have accepted it. You showed patience, intelligence, and strength." Maya smiled, feeling proud but humble. She knew that the process had taught her more than any simple victory could. It had shown her how to remain calm under pressure, plan carefully, and act decisively while maintaining respect for others. The HOA, after reviewing Maya's documentation and seeing the completed fence, officially acknowledged that the structure complied with all legal requirements. They sent a letter confirming that the fine had been dropped and that no further action would be taken. For Maya, this was a moment of closure. She had turned an initially stressful and unfair situation into an opportunity to protect her property and demonstrate her intelligence and responsibility. She read the letter several times, appreciating the resolution and the calm, professional way it had been achieved. The fence itself had become a point of interest. It was strong, attractive, and clearly defined the boundaries of Maya's property. The gate allowed her to access the lake whenever she wished, and the warm brown color blended naturally with the surroundings. The structure was practical and elegant, showing that careful planning could lead to functional beauty. Maya took a walk along the fence, inspecting it once more. Each panel, each post, and the gate all represented her careful thought and careful action. life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Maya spent mornings fishing, afternoons tending to her garden, and evenings watching the sunset over the lake. The fence provided her with a sense of security and control, allowing her to enjoy her property without worry. She noticed that she was calmer, more focused, and more confident in her daily life. The process of handling the HOA challenge had strengthened her problem-solving skills and her ability to handle unexpected situations effectively. Occasionally, other residents would approach her for advice about property issues or conflicts with the HOA. Maya spoke politely and calmly, emphasizing the importance of staying informed, knowing one's rights, and acting strategically rather than emotionally. People appreciated her guidance, and some even commented on how her approach had inspired them to think more carefully and act responsibly in their own situations. The community began to respect the clear boundaries that the fence established. Residents who had once casually crossed Maya's property to reach the lake now understood the limits. The fence did not block public access to other parts of the lake, but it made it clear that her property was private. The result was a sense of order that benefited both Maya and her neighbors. Conflicts were reduced, and people learned the importance of respecting boundaries. Maya reflected on the journey that had led her to this point. Receiving the $3,200 fine had initially caused stress and uncertainty, but it had prompted her to act decisively, thoughtfully, and legally. She had learned to research her rights, plan carefully, and execute a solution that was fair, practical, and respectful. The experience had strengthened her confidence, patience, and ability to remain calm under pressure. She realized that challenges, when approached thoughtfully, could become opportunities for growth and improvement. Her mornings on the lake were peaceful and fulfilling. Fishing became a daily ritual that reminded her of the value of patience, focus, and calm. Each ripple of water, each gentle breeze, and each fish caught brought a sense of satisfaction. Maya felt proud of the way she had handled the HOA situation and grateful for the lessons it had taught her. One evening, she invited Daniel and another neighbor, Laura, to join her for a quiet fishing trip. They sat together on the dock, sharing stories and laughter as the sun dipped below the horizon. Maya felt a sense of community and connection. The fence, while marking her property, had not created distance between her and her neighbors. Instead, it had clarified boundaries and allowed her to enjoy her space while maintaining positive relationships with others. The HOA eventually took a more relaxed approach toward residents, recognizing that overly strict enforcement could cause unnecessary tension. Maya's careful, legal, and calm response had set an example for both the board and the community. Her actions demonstrated that disputes could be resolved respectfully and effectively when approached with knowledge, patience, and intelligence. Maya continued to improve her property over time. She added small landscaping touches along the fence, planting flowers and shrubs that enhanced its natural beauty. She also maintained the gate and ensured that the fence remained sturdy and attractive. Each day, as she looked at the completed structure, she felt a quiet satisfaction. It was a symbol not only of protection, but also of her ability to act thoughtfully in challenging situations. The fence became more than a practical barrier. It was a reminder of her perseverance, intelligence, and calmness under pressure. Maya knew that life would bring new challenges, but she also knew that she could handle them with patience, preparation, and careful planning. The lake remained a source of peace, reflection, and joy. She was free to enjoy her mornings and evenings, knowing that her rights and property were fully protected. Neighbors occasionally stopped by to compliment her on the fence or to ask about fishing tips. Maya welcomed these moments of conversation. They reminded her that even in the midst of challenges, relationships could remain positive and respectful. Her approach had fostered understanding and respect, and the community had adjusted to the new boundaries naturally. Maya often reflected on the lessons she had learned. First, she learned the importance of staying calm and focused when faced with unfair challenges. Second, she learned that careful research and planning could provide a strong foundation for action. Third, she realized that acting responsibly and legally could resolve conflicts effectively without unnecessary confrontation. These lessons were invaluable, and Maya felt that they would guide her in the future. In the weeks and months that followed, life continued peacefully. Maya's lake access remained secure, and the HOA maintained a respectful distance. Fishing continued to be a source of joy and relaxation. Maya knew that she had handled the situation with intelligence, patience, and dignity. The $3,200 fine was gone. The fence stood proudly, and she could enjoy her home and the lake freely. Maya often sat on her porch in the evenings, watching the sun set over the water. She reflected on the journey from receiving the fine to completing the fence and securing her rights. The experience had been challenging, but it had also been empowering. She felt proud of the way she had handled the situation and grateful for the lessons she had learned. In the end, Maya realized that the fence represented more than protection of her property. It symbolized fairness, perseverance, and the ability to respond thoughtfully to challenges. She had faced a stressful and unfair situation and transformed it into an opportunity for personal growth, clarity, and calm. The lake, her home, and her peaceful mornings were safe, and she could enjoy them fully. Maya picked up her fishing rod, cast her line into the shimmering water, and smiled. The gentle ripple of the lake, the warmth of the sunlight, and the quiet beauty of the surroundings reminded her of the importance of patience, intelligence, and calm determination. She knew that in life, challenges would arise, but with careful thought and thoughtful action, they could be overcome. Maya had proven that she could protect her rights, maintain her peace, and create a life she loved, all with intelligence, patience, and respect.